It's supper time with Meat and Potatoes, a podcast by Embrace, where your journey is our journey.
All right. Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalat wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa wala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear brothers. And a big salam to our viewers who are watching and or listening today. Welcome back to the dinner table for our Meat and Potatoes podcast. Alhamdulillah, we are now starting season 2 of our podcast, and I can't tell you how amazing it feels to be back with my beloved brothers here today to serve another delicious dish for all of our viewers to enjoy, inshallah ta'ala. I'm joined by our 3 brothers here. First off, Brother Abdul Rashid from Long Island, New York. Brother Abdul Rashid, how's it going?
Assalamu alaikum. It's all good. That's right. I'm here, Brother Abdul Rashid from Long Island, New York. Just happy to be back with you brothers and can't wait to get the season started.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. I agree. Couldn't agree anymore, brother. Couldn't agree anymore. Also, to my bottom right, we have Brother Daniel, all the way from Pennsylvania.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Brother Daniel from the Northeast chapter of Embrace, based mainly out of Philadelphia. But during the course between the first season and now the second season, my family and I moved to Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So now we're out of Amish County. So, inshallah, happy to see everyone again.
Oh boy, close to Amish County, huh?
Mm-hmm.
You better make sure you send some of that delicious food our way at some point.
MashaAllah. Just give me an excuse to meet up with all my brothers again. This would be great.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
We'll give you some shoe fly pie. Alhamdulillah.
Shoe fly pie. Huh? That sounds interesting. You'll have to tell me about that. Tell me about that later. I certainly hope it's not made out of shoe flies.
Absolutely. We'll surprise you.
Make it a pleasant surprise.
Don't worry, it's fantastic. Depending on if you like sweets, inshallah.
Oh, I have a huge sweet tooth. But all right. Up next we have our brother Rashid, the second of the Rashid brothers, all the way from Sacramento, California. Brother Rashid.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yeah, coming to you live from Sacramento, California. Born and raised in the Bay Area in San Francisco, California, so repping the Bay Area, and I know our beautiful meals are potluck, and I'm the one that'll be bringing the bean pies. That's my thing.
You know what, Brother Daniel? Forget the shoe fly pie. If Brother Rashid brings the bean pie, that's really all we need.
I don't blame you.
We'll have a combo plate.
Combo plate. Yeah. Best of both worlds.
Alhamdulillah.
And so, as a quick overview as to last season. Last season's focus was primarily covering various ahadith or narrations of the Prophet ﷺ, and discussing some of the different lessons that we've gotten from those different hadith. We had a few guests here discussing some of their own reflections and just had a really good talk about what we can learn from those hadith and implement them in our current daily lives. For season 2, we decided to instead focus primarily on the new Muslim experience, having discussions about topics primarily focused on some of the different challenges and experiences that those who recently converted to Islam go through. Alhamdulillah, all of us here are converts to Islam. All of us here have converted to Islam at some point in our lives. And inshallah, we do have episodes planned for this season where each and every one of us will go over our story of Islam, how we came to Islam, how we discovered Islam and embraced this beautiful faith. So inshallah, we look forward to that. But we're going to share our insight out of some of these different topics, some of these different challenges and how we overcame them. And inshallah ta'ala, from these discussions, those who are watching and listening will be able to also learn some of these lessons, see how they can implement those lessons in their own lives, inshallah ta'ala. So let's go ahead and jump right into the plate for the main course for tonight. And the main course for tonight is focused on the concept of changing our names. Now, this is probably one of the most common questions that new Muslims get when they first accept Islam is, hey, are you going to change your name? Did you change your name? Why don't you change your name? Should you change your name? This is probably one of the very first hurdles those of us who convert to Islam have to go through. And so we felt that it was very important for us to have a discussion on this topic, because there's a lot of misconceptions that come to the idea of changing your name in Islam, whether this is something that is recommended, something that is required, or even something that is discouraged. And so all of us here, some of us here even today have actually changed their names. Some of us here have not changed their names. And so I think this really opens the door to have some really good fluid conversations on as to why we think one should change the name or shouldn't change the name. So what we'll do, as we normally do in our bean and potatoes discussions, is we'll go around the dinner table, ask everyone to kind of give their initial input, and then from there we'll open the floor to have a collective discussion, inshallah ta'ala. Starting with a single question, which is, should you change your name or shouldn't you change your name? And we'll ask our brother Abdul Rashid to start us off. So brother Abdul Rashid, why don't you go ahead and tell us what you think? Change your name, shouldn't change your name? What do you think?
I would first say yes, but no.
Yes, but actually no.
But as a convert who changed his name, I don't think obviously you don't have to, but I did change my name. So, and changed my name for multiple reasons. One, my part of my introduction to Islam was through the Nation of Islam. So that was one of their practices, like Malcolm X, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Muhammad Ali. And so I wanted to be, I guess, like them. But also, personally and historically, as an African American here, we got our names from our slave masters, right? So as part of my conversion and part of my becoming a better person or a different person, I wanted to go, 100%. I wanted to change my name, and I wanted to become spiritually and figuratively a new person. So I changed my name, and I think it worked for me. And I understand that you don't have to, and I understand that the Prophet probably didn't encourage it. He probably discouraged it, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But I also don't think that the African American experience is different here in the United States. So I think if you do, you do. You don't, you don't. But it works for me. And if someone told me, I would tell them, it's up to you. It's a personal decision. If you want to change your name, if you feel comfortable, change your name. But you don't have to. But I did.
And I find it very interesting how you highlighted your personal reasons for changing your name. How you changed your name due to your identity as an African American, which is something, I think that is very profound. And also something that we see very common, that not only Muslims, but even non-Muslim African Americans all the time change their name due to that fact. But
yes, before
we move on to Brother Daniel, Brother Abdul Rashid, I don't think I ever asked you what your original name was. And so, do you mind sharing that with us, just out of curiosity?
I don't think it matters, but
it doesn't. It's purely just I'm just in the back of my mind, I wonder what his name used to be.
But I'm not hiding anything. So so I changed my name. I had my name legally changed, so all my identification says Abdul Rashid, but my birth name was Anthony Campbell. That was the name my mother gave me.
Well, what I will say is, I think Abdul Rashid does fit you better, mashallah.
I think at this point I'm 53 now, so I think I've been Abdul Rashid longer than I ever was Anthony Campbell. So alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. All right, Jazakallah khair, Brother Abdul Rashid. May Allah reward you with good. All right, Brother Daniel. I mean, your name might somewhat give off your opinion, perhaps, but what are your thoughts? Change your name? Don't change your name? Why or why not? What do you think?
My answer is that I don't feel it is necessary unless it is necessary. But you can tell, because I have not changed my name, that it is something that is, something that was required for me. One of the things too about the changing of the name, it actually got me into a little bit of research of trying to understand, I guess in what Rodney Dangerfield used to say, what's in a name. What do names actually mean? What are the references for it? What's the root of it? What does it translate to? And my name in Hebrew, which comes from one of the names of the prophets in the Jewish tradition. Not mentioned inside of Islam, but sometimes they're synonymous with one. There's nothing that says that it's not, but it means God is my judge. And of course, the Jewish tradition, Christian tradition, Islamic tradition, all of it is the same. It's the same God. It's all Allah. So in that case, Allah is my judge. It is not necessary, in my opinion, to need to change my name. However, I have had these experiences where people have asked me, "Oh, when do you plan to change your name?" It's like, well, I don't ever feel like I need to. And sometimes it's like you need to change your name, and don't worry about it. When the name comes to you, you'll pick it up, inshallah. But I'm not under the impression that it's something that I'm required to do. But if somebody is under the understanding that that's something that they want to do, if it makes them feel that they're practicing their faith a little bit, or if their roots of their name comes from something that is rooted in a different belief or different religion or some sort of paganism or whatever the case may be, then I would encourage somebody to do so.
It's funny you mentioned that story, brother Daniel. It kind of reminds me. I mean, that's happened to me numerous times. When are you going to change your name? Or you should change your name. And there's this one old uncle. I remember this old uncle who he was a nice guy for the most part, but he was like telling me, why don't you change your name? Your name is a Christian name. It should be a Muslim name. Usually, Muslim name people just mean Arabic name. You can give yourself any Arabic sounding name and consider it Muslim, even if it's not really Islamic at all. But I was like, Kenneth is not a Christian name. It's just a name. To my knowledge, it's not really known to be specifically identifying with Christian theology. I could be wrong, but this is just the mentality. If your name is not Arabic or Persian, then it must be a Christian name. So, all right, brother Rashid, our beloved brother Rashid, coming from Sacramento, California. What are your thoughts? Change your name? Don't change your name? Why or why not?
Bismillah. I kind of have two feelings on it, whether you change it or don't change it. But and I'm no sheikh, I'm no scholar, and like Brother Daniel, I wanted to do a little bit more research about the whole name change thing from an Islamic perspective. And what I found is that the Prophet ﷺ gave some hints in terms of we should change our name if our name conflicts with Islam. So if a name like Shahuda, which means the son of God, so that's a name we shouldn't have, right? Or the second case is that if a name is evil or bad, then you should change it. So if your name is like felony or murder or something like that, then you should change your name. So in those two situations, and there may be other situations as well, but under those two situations, a person should change their name. But other than that, there's no reason why you have to. And I'll preclude, I think, what Kenneth may ask me about my real name, so I'll start with that. But I was born Derek. The last four letters of that is Rick. So my initials were RT. So, and I love those initials all my life. I just love those initials. But when I became Muslim, someone told me, who was not born here in the United States, said, you should change your name. You should change your name. You should change your name. And that was shortly after I took my Shahada in 1998. So I said, oh, okay. And so I started looking for a name, and I found the name Rashid. And I liked that name because it meant to me, guide to the right path. That was looking at what the name means. And I have sons, and I knew I needed to guide them. So that name fit. And first it met the initials RT. That's one of Allah's attributes. And I felt I had to guide my sons through three young Black men, little kids at the time, through this life. And they're almost 30 now, but so I'm dating myself. So I had to guide them through
your
life.
age.
I know for real. All my gray hairs are showing right now. So for that reason, I chose that I wanted to change my name. It was a conscious decision. And then I talked to my dad, who grew up in the Nation of Islam and came over to Orthodox Islam. And just for the same reasons Abdul Rashid talked about, he highly recommended or suggested supported me changing my name, but he also understood that I didn't have to. But again, he highly supported it. So then, from there, that was it. I just went ahead and moved forward with changing my name. But I do want to make it clear, though, that people should not get into giving into the pressure of being told they have to change their name, because again, unless it bumps into one of the two things I mentioned before, there's no reason why you have to.
Absolutely. And I appreciate Brother Rashid highlighting the Islamic evidences as to when you possibly need to change your name, which again, as you mentioned, only two. One, if your name is contradictory to the message of Islam, which of course is Tawheed, worshiping Allah alone, worshiping God alone. Or if your name has an evil meaning. Now, I can't imagine there's anyone out there who's actually named murder. So I would like to believe that's
there are. No.
I was about to ask you about that, but
I'm sure there's some rappers that got that,
maybe like a stage name or something like
right,
that.
That's it.
Some type of gang name or whatever, stage name or whatever. But a parent naming their child murder, they probably were on something when they did that.
I wanted to mention, I just recently had a newborn, and I'm thinking in the back of my head, I'm holding up the kid like, oh, you're so precious. You look like a murderer.
Oh my God.
Allahu Akbar.
You're going to kill somebody one day.
Oh my God, subhanAllah. Well, may Allah make that not the case. And that's why we named you murderer.
Felony. Your name is Felony.
For the most part, people don't have to worry about being named something like that. If you do, God help you. But regarding my perspective, my name also kind of gives away my stance on whether one should or should not change their name. First and foremost, what everyone has illustrated here, I think, is the most important, which is it is a personal choice. Do not let anyone coerce you or persuade you or pressure you to changing your name. Is purely your choice and your choice alone. My perspective, though, is obviously I as my name kind of gives off, I don't think a convert should change their name unless, of course, it's one of the meanings that we described previously. And what I really want to do is explain why I actually personally discourage converts from changing their names. And this is my personal stance. And number one, I think someone here mentioned before about, parental relationships. Your parents chose that name for you. You don't want to do anything that could really hurt their feelings. Many times they put a lot of thought into picking your name. So if you do change your name, I would have at the very least speak to your parents about it and try to get their blessing, because you don't want, because what's even more important, of course, is maintaining family relationships, right? So you don't want to do anything that's going to, hurt your parents. But number two, and why I think this is really important, this is where I think we can have a really good conversation, brothers, is we have this conception in America that Islam is a Middle Eastern religion. Islam is a foreign religion. A Muslim, whenever someone thinks Muslim, they think, Middle Easterner. I'm guilty of this. And we'll go into this whenever I talk about my conversion story, but before I knew what Islam was, I thought Muslims were just like a race of people in the Middle East. I didn't even know it was a religion. I was that ignorant because this is how it's portrayed. And so when we have converts who adopt a name like Abdul Rahman, Abdul Rahim, Abdullah, Sadiq, Rashid, or what have you, all very beautiful names. But when we have this consistency of converts doing this, it continues to push the narrative that Muslim equals Arab. And that, of course, we know is just not the case. And many times you'll find, Muslims who, it doesn't even have to be an Arabic name. If it's like a Persian name, they'll consider it a Muslim name, to where it becomes to me, it's less, choosing a quote Muslim unquote, name and more of just choosing an Arab name or a Persian name or a name that's better identified with a Muslim majority country or culture. And the fact of the matter is, they're really, in terms of names that are actually truly Muslim names, there are a very limited few. You know, the Prophet ﷺ, peace be upon him, said that the best names are Abdullah, the slave of Allah, and Abdul Rahman, the slave of the most merciful. Other names besides maybe a select few, besides ones that are, you know, slave of, attribute of Allah, are they truly Muslim names or more Arab names? And these, I think, are questions we should ask ourselves. But I think to promote diversity in the Muslim community and to express to our non-Muslim neighbors and family that Islam is a universal religion, keeping the name of your origin, I think, can have a much more powerful impact, at least in terms of da'wah, than adopting a Muslim name or an Arab name or a Persian or what have you. That's just my thoughts, though. But what do you brothers think on that? Do you guys agree, disagree? Abdul Rashid, I see you put up your finger, so I'm assuming you have a counterpoint, or
well, I don't know. So
that means yes. That's saying yes in a nice way, but no problem. This is a discussion.
This is right. This is healthy debate, you know.
You made 2 points. You said that you know, parents, and so I know when I changed my name, that might be the only thing I regret. I didn't have enough conversation with my mother about changing my name. I made up my mind and I went, pfft, and she was like, but why? And I was like, I don't even know if I gave her a good enough reason. And then after I changed my name, I regret it. I gave her a hard time. Like she would call me by my name. She'd call me Anthony. I'm like, no, Rashid. And she'd be like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, I know, just, you know, get used to it. And so, you know, all these years later, I guess I feel a little bit bad about that. But then you said Islam was looked at as a foreign religion here in the United States. And I know that's partially true, but that negates the history of Islam in the United States, because it was started pretty much by African Americans. And for a long time, in the early days of Islam in the United States, it was just African Americans. And even those African Americans were changing their names. Now, I don't know about, you know, what they changed their names to. Were they Islamic names or were they changed their names to African names? But that's like been a tradition of Muslims since the beginning. And I know for me personally, I think it's just not, I mean, so I think that's just not telling the whole story. I mean, now today, when you look at Islam in the United States, it seems like it's a foreign religion because you see more immigrants. But I think a name, people should have names that mean something. And I know if you're African American here in the United States, if your name is Robert Smith, my thing is, who is Robert Smith? Who was Robert Smith? Smith was your slave master. And then your mother, your father gave you the name Robert because that was just the name that, and so to me, it's about having your heritage robbed from you. So for me, changing my name was almost taking back my heritage. Now I can't trace my lineage all the way back to Saudi Arabia or even Africa. So I did the next best thing. So, and I think a lot of Muslims, African Americans, do that. And even a lot of converts, I've ran into convert sisters who've changed their names to like Khadijah or Samala, and I'm like, that's wonderful. I think that's great. And I don't think that says anything about us not being diverse. I think that says, I'm not trying to be Arab. When I changed my name, I just wanted a name that meant something more than what my name meant previously.
Right.
Yeah, and I think I want to add on to that real quick. I think that as far as dealing with the family, there's a way to slide into that in a comfortable way. So, for instance, with my family, my family calls me Ricky. All of them call me that since birth, right? My whole family. So everyone in my family, when I changed my name, I told them they can still call me that. So they don't call me Rashid, they call me Ricky, which I love because that's my family. They've been doing that my whole life. But from 1998 forward, all the people that I meet, they call me Rashid. Everyone in my job, they call me Rashid. And everyone moving forward. So there's a way to slide into that, I think. And as far as my birth name, I made a commitment because my mother was clearly a little upset when I changed my name because she went through that effort to name me that, right? So I told her, okay, all right. So out of respect, I'll let everybody in the family call me Ricky, and I will not change my name legally as long as you're on this planet or I'm still here. Allah knows who's going to go first, right? So I'm not going to change that, and I promised her that I would not do that. But I do encourage people to think about names that mean something, because Rashid, I mentioned, it means the one who guides, but then I added bin Qadir onto my name because Qadir was my dad's Muslim name. So my name means the one who guides, the son of Qadir. To me, that means a whole lot more than Ricky, although again, I love Ricky. But what does Ricky mean? Whereas Rashid bin Qadir actually means something. So I just want to throw that out there, and I don't want to say don't change your name because it's an error. It's a foreign. It's the media that makes this a foreign religion. It's not our names. It's the media that does it. So I just want to be clear about that.
Brother,
Right. So
Kenneth, if I may,
two points though. 2 points. 2 points. 2 points. You don't mind, brother Daniel?
Oh, by all means,
First, I just want to really clarify something that I was not trying to say that converts who change their name is because they want to sound more Arab. That's not at all what I was saying. What I was trying to say was, and I do agree with what you brothers were saying, that the point, especially the point that Abdul Rashid was making, he was bringing it from the African American perspective, which I think is a completely separate and important issue, right? And that's a completely different perspective. It kind of opens up a much deeper conversation when we talk about the concept of changing names when it comes to the African American paradigm. And in that paradigm, in that community, it's going to be looked at much differently. I agree with that wholeheartedly. But all I was trying to say was that in terms of the general community perception, yes, the mainstream media does play a key role into describing Islam as something foreign. But all my point was that when, in my view, again, this is my personal view, when converts change their name to an Arabic name or a Persian name or what have you, and I've met converts that actually change the names like a Persian name, it can contribute to that perception. Not that it's the foundation of that perception, it's not, but I think it can contribute to the perception. But most first and foremost, again, it's definitely a personal choice, and of course, it's important for us to respect whatever choice someone makes with their name, right? And that's something that I think is very, very important. And so I just wanted to highlight that real quick before letting Brother Daniel jump back in. And so, Brother Daniel, please go ahead and stick your fork in. Sorry for kind of ripping that fork from your wrist there.
Well, see, I was going to share some of that shoe fly pie I was telling you about, and I was going to bring back the question to you and ask you. So, since you and I are the ones, I guess, in this on this dinner table here, or at this dinner table here, that have not changed our names, was there any in particular name that you may have thought, hey, this would have been the name, or this will be the name if I ever choose to do that? Because I think I have chosen a name, but I have my reasons as to why I hadn't. But let me ask you first.
Very good question. And I do actually have a name. So when I first converted to Islam, as you other brothers here have likely also experienced, I got a lot of pressure on me to change my name. Someone even told me, subhanAllah, no Muslim's gonna marry a Kenneth Miserella. You need to change your name if you want to get married. Someone said that to me, subhanAllah. And so when I first became Muslim, of course, I didn't know. I didn't know better that it was not a necessity. It was just a personal choice. And so I did choose a name for myself. That name was Amin, the honest one, which is actually what the Prophet, peace be upon him, was called by his community, but even before he became a prophet. And so For some people, I started saying "call me Amin," but that quickly kind of got overdone. I stopped introducing myself as such, but I do remember this one instance, and this I found to be very interesting. It was actually a convert I was speaking with, and he asked me, what was your name again? And so I told him my name is Kenneth, and he said, I'm not really comfortable calling you that name. Do you have another? You have a Muslim name you can go through? Which, if this was a convert saying this to me, yeah, he was like, he was like, I'm uncomfortable calling you by that. You have like a Muslim name. I mean, at that time I was like, well, I guess you can call me Amin, but this was back then. The me now probably would have said, sorry, bruh, that's my name. That you're uncomfortable with that, that's your problem. That's probably what I would have said today. But back then I was just like, fine, just call me Amin. But yeah. And it was a convert that was saying this to me too, which is I found most interesting, telling me he was uncomfortable calling me by Kenneth. But yeah, brother Daniel, my name that was going to be Amin, I decided not to do that because I realized that, Kenneth is my name. It's a name I've been born with. It's a name that I'm attached to. It's the name my mother gave me. I felt it was not the best choice for me to change my name. And so that's why I decided not to go through with it.
Yeah, and I do agree with part of what you said, Kenneth, about family relations, right? Because if changing your name is going to cause like rift between you and the family, then that is something we deeply should consider and think about seriously.
Right. But brother Daniel, you mentioned that you also had a name you were thinking of back in the day. Why don't you go ahead and share with us what that hypothetical name would have been?
If I'm pronouncing it correctly, Abdul Ghafur.
Abdul Ghafur.
Yes. That's an attribute, right?
Yes, slave of the most forgiving.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think that's one of the qualities that really hit me the most when starting to memorize the Quran, like coming across one of the names or one of the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that kind of moved me the most. Like no matter what I do, this is the entity, the being, the creator of all that can forgive me. And it's that sort of mercy that has brought me to Islam. So that sort of reflection, really, sparked that sort of interest. But then I imagine though, and I know that we shouldn't subject differently our Islam because of not necessarily fear or inconvenience caused by other people, but I imagine trying to explain that to people, like, oh brother, what's your name? Or let's to like a non-Muslim, or to even my parents, oh, my name is Abdul Ghafur, like when they can't, like when I took a couple of weeks to be able to learn the Ra to be able to pronounce it properly, like no if even Qadir, to do the cough, to be able to pronounce it correctly sometimes would be a difficulty for certain people, like even for my parents who've never had to enunciate using the cool.
That was always the most difficult letter for me, the line.
Those are hard letters.
It's like, you have someone, hey, so what's your name? Well, before that, you're gonna have to take a class, to learn this alphabet if you want to learn how to pronounce my name.
But I think
yeah, exactly.
But it's a very beautiful name. It has a very profound meaning, and Al-Ghafur is, the most forgiving is one of my favorite names for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
And when Daniel mentioned that, one thing ran through my head is when taking on one of Allah's attributes on the Day of Judgment. I don't know what's I don't want to say what's more pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but if you take on one of his attributes as your name, that's got to be looked upon in a good way, I would hope.
Right. If you take on the slave of one of his attributes as your name. Right? And I think it is important for us to clarify when we talk about taking Allah's attributes as your name, what we mean by that. And so, for example, Brother Rashid's name is Rashid. Rashid, the one who guides. But Allah's name is Ar-Rashid, the one who guides. And so while someone can take the name like Rashid, they can't take the name Ar-Rashid, the one who guides, because that name belongs only to Allah. And so it's important that we also clarify that when we say taking Allah's attributes, we do not mean this in literal sense, because of course that in itself would be considered attributing partnership. What we're saying here though is like, someone can be like named Rahim, just Rahim by itself is fine. But Ar-Rahim, the most merciful, that would be, assigning Allah's attributes to us, which of course would be a big no-no, so to speak. And so it's also important for us just to know what, if we do decide we want to change our name to Rashid or Rahim or Wahid or what have you, it's just important that if you're going to do so, number one, make sure we don't add the ed at the end, so that we're not trying to attribute one of Allah's attributes to us. Or number two, add the abd in the beginning, the slave of. So Abdul Rahman or Abdul Ghafur, like brother Daniel was saying. But all right, we are now at time, so we'll go ahead and inshallah wrap up with our dessert round as per usual. Usually, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, we usually end our sessions with just last minute thoughts on the topic. We call it the dessert round. So inshallah we'll go around the table, see what everyone has bought for dessert for today, inshallah. Starting with brother Abdul Rashid, what do you have for us for dessert?
I'm gonna bring some nice cheesecake with the strawberry topping. That's one of my favorites.
Ooh, strawberry cheesecake.
Oh, I like a cheesecake.
Bringing the good stuff.
A little simple but delicate, right? So once again, like no, you don't have to change your name in Islam when you convert. You do it if you want to, and that's all I would suggest. I mean, like I said, I changed my name and I'm happy with it. And if someone asked me, I would tell them, once again, if you feel that the need to change your name, yes, I would do it probably differently now as I'm old, and I probably know that in the past I didn't run it by my wife, or which my girlfriend, been my fiance back then, but my mother, more importantly. She would have an issue with it, and I wish I would have been a little more delicate with her back then. But I don't regret anything. I don't regret changing my name, and I had it legally changed, so. I'm gonna die as Abdul Rashid on all my paperwork, and so it's something that it's a personal choice. So tread lightly.
That was a delicious piece of cheesecake, brother Abdul Rashid. Thank you. All right, brother Daniel, what have you bought for dessert tonight?
Well, that's that shoe fly pie again, so we'll leave it short and sweet, and that is I'm under the impression that there's no such thing as a Muslim name, but there's only names that are not compatible with Islam. So if one, then I recommend to change it. But otherwise, it's a good way to keep your culture and yourself if you may keep the same name, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah.
That was a pretty good piece of shoe fly pie.
First
time trying it.
I know you're waiting for the bean pie.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, I am waiting for the bean pie. So brother Rashid, stop holding out on me. Bring me the bean pie.
Alhamdulillah, bring some bean pie. Give me some shoe fly pie, some cheesecake. Alhamdulillah.
We're gonna need to go to the gym tonight.
Yeah, we are. But yeah, like brothers mentioned, that it's a personal choice, and no one should really give in to the pressure of changing their name unless it's one of the two things that we mentioned earlier in the episode. But I will add, if there's a way for you to honor your parents in your name, if you decide to change your name, then I would suggest doing that. You can always add ibn and then put your father's name, or female, you can put bint, and then that means the daughter of in the name. So if there's a way to honor your parents in your name change, please do that. But don't feel any pressure to change your name. Don't get into that. Just worship Allah and worship Allah alone.
Alhamdulillah. That was a pretty delicious piece of bean pie, brother Rashid. Jazakallah khair. May Allah reward you with good. So I guess I will bring lava cake to the dinner table tonight. I haven't had lava cake in like quite a long time. I think I'm overdue. But I think you brothers already mentioned the main points I wanted to focus on, which is number one, that, changing your name is a personal choice. Only you can decide if it's the best decision for you. Don't let anyone pressure you into doing it. And you're going to get a lot of pressure. You're going to have many times where people are going to tell you, hey, you should change your name. Hey, how come your name isn't this? Hey, how come your name isn't that? But at the end of the day, it is your choice. Only you know what's best for you when it comes to which name best suits you. Perhaps changing your name to a quote Muslim unquote name is best for you because it helps you identify more with your religion. Or perhaps you feel that it's best for you to keep your current name because it helps you stay on to your culture, your community, a means of staying connected with your family, your community, and your culture. Only you can make that call. And inshallah, we hope from our discussion today, which we had, alhamdulillah, a lot of diverse thoughts, diverse perspectives on this topic, and kind of help you decide which decision is best for you. So with that, inshallah, we'll go ahead and end our first episode of season 2 for Meat and Potatoes. Inshallah, we'll see you all back at the dinner table for episode 2. Allahumma subhanaka wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Inshallah, we will see you all next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Meat and Potatoes is a podcast by Embrace. Embrace is a comprehensive convert care and empowerment organization dedicated to providing Muslim converts with social and educational spaces that encourage growth, shape their Islamic identity, and equip them with the tools they need for their lifetime journey. To learn more, visit us at www.embracereverts.org.